South of Egypt are the Nubians, so different from the Egyptians they claim. But this does not make any sense in any way, shape, or form. For the first part, we have to explore the fact that the Nubians prayed to the same gods that the ancient Egyptians did. Sure, the ancient Egyptians had their own variants of gods, but most of them would make an entrance or have a story linked to Nubia or Kush. More than this, the people of Nubia had stories linking their gods to Egypt. And of course, not to be ignored, we find the same gods in the Horn of Africa, some of them represented very late indeed. The worship of animals, the worship of people, the fusion is ancient. But of course, there's a second thing, which is when Nubia, Egypt, and the Horn of Africa converted to Christianity or Islam, what they did was solidify an ancient tradition within their realm, which is to believe in the same God, just different variations. It's kind of scary to think about it, that the three places that are responsible for the gods we have today are the three places which had the same gods in their history. Their acceptance of magic, which is looked down upon today, their obsession with music and dance as part of their magical ceremonies. But let's take one step back and look into foreign gods that have nothing to do with Egypt or Africa in order to compare what can happen when people migrate far and wide. For this, we will take the Indo-European. So this has nothing to do with Africa. The Indo-European deus, or day, or deus Pitar, or deus Ma. These words all mean light, divine, enlightened, and they have nothing to do with Africa. I just want to use it as an example of how far and wide a religion can spread without changing that much. So, the Indo-European version of their highest god is this deus, and you can see it because it's widespread between different places. In Iran, in India, in Avestan, in Mycenaean Greek, in Italic. These words are deus in Sanskrit, dios in Avestan, dewe in Greek, duos or deus, meaning Zeus, in Greek, doe in Italian. And all of these are different versions of the same concept, something to do with daylight or the sky or something to do with that. This is one of the most important gods. So despite the fact that even though the Indians were visited by Indo-Europeans, allegedly, in 1500 BC, somewhere there, they still hold out today, as the word diva or devi means a god, and it also means a shiny person or a divine person. And as you saw with deus, it means daylight or light or sky or shine. The word is still there. So let's go back to Egypt with the word Amun. And if you see, the word Amun carries out into Nubia as Amon. But before we talk about Amun in his righteousness as a god that is taking place in Egypt and Nubia under the cult of Amun, we have to talk about the word Amun itself, the same way that we talked about the word deity. The word Amun is called the hidden one. And Amun has something to do with the sky and water. And you shall see why this is a very interesting thing, especially considering the fact that neighboring countries, especially that have some history together, have gods relative to each other in the same way that Deus had something to do with Devi in India, very far away from each other. Amun created himself from the waters, and so we associate him with water, and his name also means the hidden one. But this word Amun is very suspicious given the fact that the word Aman in Berber languages means water, and the word Amanzi means water in Bantu languages. This making it seem like the primordial waters idea is still held deep inside of the religions, though the names have shifted. And of course, in Nubia, you have the word Ayman, which means water as well. So you have the word Amun, which means water, the word Aman, Amanzi, and Aman in Nobin, in the Nubian language. And you can see here that because of this connection, some people suspect that the primordial, the waters, which in other African countries, the primordial starts to become not water, but plants. For example, in Zulu mythology, the first ancestor springs out from the reeds. In others, they come out of a swamp rather than coming out of the water directly. These are all regional, just like how the dais in the European, sometimes they come from the sky, sometimes they emerge out of light, sometimes they emerge out of the void. It just depends which region you're in, but it's basically the same underlying thought. So now that we have that background or that introduction, let's get straight into the mythology. Over here we have a Zulu myth talking about the creation. So it says, there sprang up a man and a woman. The name of both was Nkulunkulu. They sprang from a reed, the reed which is in the water. The reed was made by Umvelinqangi. Umvelinqangi caused grass and trees to grow. He created all wild animals and cattle and game and snakes and birds and water and mountains. So let's look at the similarities. First, you will notice that there is a watery expanse. This watery expanse in Egyptian mythology is called Nu, and you can see it there. But Nu is not a singular, it's a male and a female, Nu and Nunet. This is the male and female. Out of this Nu and Nunet comes out Amun and Amunet. And in some earlier texts, it's Tefun and Tefunet. But either way, they emerge from the water. I want to make a quick description of something that's going to confuse everybody. Zulu mythology and Egyptian mythology, and pretty much a lot of mythologies, they don't have one creation myth. They have like several depending on what you believe. So in this one, Nkulunkulu, which is the first to emerge from the waters, are both a male and a female couple. And as you can see in the Egyptian myth, it's a male and female couple. that emerges from the waters. And in the Egyptian one, the water is both male and female. He emerges from the waters. But watch what happens when we compare the creation myth of Atum to the creation myth of other African kingdoms. So let's begin. So before we make the comparison, we have to look at the ancient Egyptian Atum. So it says, as a form of Ra, Atum created himself out of the primeval water of chaos called Nun. He then gave birth to Shu and Tefnut from his semen, or by spitting them out from his body. Mbomba. He is said to have originally existed alone in the darkness, in a universe consisting of nothing but primordial water. Mbomba was said to appear like a gigantic man in the form of white color. The creation took place when he vomited the sun, moon, animals, and then humanity.
We're going to tell the creation myth from the Bombara people. Nothing but the emptiness of the void. The universe began from a single point of sound. The sound, Yo. Everything, including human consciousness, came from this root sound, Yo. Yo, the primeval creative spirit, created the structure of the heavens, the earth, and all living and non-living things. Yo brought into being the creative figures, Pharaoh, Pemba, and Teliko. Pharaoh was a water spirit. He created 7 heavens corresponding to the 7 parts of the earth and fertilized them with rain. Teliko was a spirit of the air. He created a set of twins who were the ancestors of the first humans. Pemba created the earth. He then mixed together his saliva and dust and created a woman, Mosokoroni, who became his wife. Together, they created all the animals and plants. Jealous of Pemba's growing power, Musukaroni planted him in the ground. She then left and wandered the world, creating disorder and unhappiness, and bringing illness and death to humanity.